Have you seen the list of ministers? Did I hear you say what politicians and mischief makers cannot do on social media does not exist? Ministers have been nominated, portfolios have been assigned, and if you check well, perhaps your name might be on the list. Don't ask me where or how, it's on social media. If you say scam, now you sabi you. Politics thrives in all season and all weather. Indeed, it is at present the biggest commodity in stock. The politics of leadership of the National Assembly and their committees, appointments, and lobbying for appointments, as you know, what else? But alongside politics, the Tinubu administration is grappling with very critical national issues and getting ready to shift gears to governance. Service chiefs and principal officers in the administrations have been selected and appointed. The next big thing is therefore the appointment of ministers. And that forms the basis of our engagement today. Welcome to Deepening the Conversation, a weekly diary on life and politics written by Ishiekwene. Our review today is based on the article Tinubu and the Burden of Ministerial List. This, I'll show you the cover so you could see it. Tinubu and the Burden of Ministerial List. It is an interesting conversation that educates and broadens perspectives on Nigerian, African, and global realities. Let's engage with Azu about his column, the phantom ministerial list, and other concerns he has raised. It's good to have you, Mr. Azu.
Thanks for having me back again, Julius. Thank you.
You saw a ministerial list or a list of nominated ministers. You probably might see one yet with your name or mine on it.
Seriously?
What is at play, or who are the players? What is this obsession with the ministerial list?
Well, thank you. It's a familiar ritual, so to speak, when a new government comes in, and this particularly so because Buhari's government is left after 8 years, and then there's a new government, and boards have been dissolved, and ministers had to go. So there's something in the order of close to 3,000 or more vacancies created at the different levels, the boards and parastatals and so forth and so on. But a much smaller number of vacancies, of course, at the ministerial level because of constitutional stipulations. And so it is not unusual. The interest in, is certainly not unusual. In who becomes minister and who doesn't become minister is not unusual. Also keep in mind that Nigerians are coming from a place where under Buhari, especially in Buhari's first term in office, it took him, as I said in my article, the time that it took, almost roughly the time it took Murtala Mohammed to be in office.
6 months.
Yes, before he appointed his cabinet. And we all know the consequences of that. And given the way President Tinubu started from May 29th, there is justifiably high expectations that he would sort of maintain the momentum by quickly putting his cabinet in place so that you have a government running at full steam.
Okay, you have raised fundamental concerns in the article about the nature of Nigeria's federalism, where too much attention is paid to the federal government while the states and local governments are negated. What do you think could be done to fill or substantially reduce this void?
Well, I think that several things, but one that occurs to me immediately would be the fact that both the media and NGOs, and of course citizens, will have to pay more attention to what is happening at the subnational levels, especially at the subnational level, especially at the level of the state governments, because there are only a limited number of people who can become ministers in Abuja. There is, I think, a constitutional limit of a minimum of 36 and a maximum, I think, of 43 or so. And yes, it's important to get that team in place to provide direction and leadership. But that team you can't have that team actually looking at what is happening in 36 states and 774 local governments. So while it's important to be interested, justifiably, in what is happening in Abuja, I think it's also important to pay attention to those levels and tiers of government where actions and consequences of the people who have also been elected into office would impact the lives of citizens. And that, I think, is jointly a responsibility of both the media, of citizens who have voted, both media and citizens. And I think it's a collective responsibility.
And perhaps because those tiers of government are also closer to
Closer,
people, I would like
exactly.
to add. Yes. Okay, as a sequel, more than 30 governors from the Obasanjo era alone had corruption cases after their immunity in office expired. 6 of them got convicted, served prison terms for corruption. Many others are now, back in circulation. Some of them are back in the Senate, even as principal officers. If you met President Tinubu, what would you tell him to do with these people who are going to approve his list of ministers?
Well, I don't know about meeting President Tinubu, but I know that.
Hypothetical.
Yes, of course, I understand that. But I know that the laws, it is not entirely the responsibility of the president to tell the appropriate agencies, the people that need to be called to question if they establish that there is a need to do that. I would, of course, assume that the appropriate agencies, in this specific case, maybe the EFCC, has its own dossiers and has records on the persons who have, yes. And if those persons no longer enjoy immunity, which was the excuse in all the years in office, and they believe that they have a strong case to advance against them, I do not think they need the president to ask them to do so.
Okay. So, no ministerial list has equaled in technical competence and capacity Obasanjo's appointments in 1999 and in 2003. Do you think Tinubu might raise the bar? What do you discern in his body language?
Well, I don't know about body language. We dealt with the matter of body language in 2015, and we saw that it was just a voodoo that led nowhere. So honestly, I don't know about body language. But I recall, based on what President Tinubu himself has said, that he said he was going to form a government, now I'm quoting him, of national competence. That was what he said he was going to do. And so I would expect that a man of his experience, and he's quite experienced, he's governor, senator, and all of that, and also coming from the background of the private sector where he worked in many years.
And political activism.
And all, yes. So I would expect that. And then knowing full well the sort of challenges confronting the country at this time, I would expect that he would put his best foot forward. He would take time. Not well. Take time does not mean take forever. He would be careful. Let me use that word in choosing the persons who are going to get this monumental job or monumental task done. I think that is what I would say for now, that he would exercise. But even if he makes mistakes, and remember, a cabinet of 36 or 43 persons, even if he makes mistakes in the choice of those, he should not shy to immediately retract or make the corrections that need to be made. But also, like in many situations in life, it's not the entire cabinet of 36 or 43 persons. You don't need a cabinet of saints or perfect people or whatever combination you intend to. But because if you use often if you use what they call the 80-20 ratio, you would find that even if you have, because politicians being politicians, there'll be pressure for IOUs and all of those things and all. But once you get the core persons in place, put, as they say, square pegs in the appropriate holes, you get a few core competent persons for the areas that need immediate attention in this country, I'm sure that we'll begin to see some movement.
Okay, you just preempted the question I was going to ask, but I'll just leave that. And should there be junior and senior ministers? How do you think Tinubu should address this intractable issue about the cost of governance?
Well, many ways. Festus Keyamo SAN has dealt in extenso with what the Constitution says about responsibility of senior junior ministers, so I need not go into that. And suggestions have also been made that perhaps President Tinubu intends to use a special advisor or special advisors in the roles of ministers of state or junior ministers. But like, we'll have to wait to see. But regarding what needs to be done in terms of cost of governance, I think among other things, there's the Orosanye report, which we have talked about over and over again since the Jonathan era, and no government seems to have taken sufficient interest in what to do. But I think that would be a good place to start. So we are not building from scratch. But also, I think that what we learned 3 years ago under COVID is that a lot can also be done leveraging technology. Okay, so I think that the government might also do itself a favor and do this country a favor by leveraging technology to get a number of those things done. I also think that there are some positions or offices or ministries that, in my view, are totally irrelevant in 2023. I mean, what do you need a Ministry of Information to do, for God's sake? I mean, we are not talking about George Orwell's
Animal Farm.
Yes, Animal Farm of 1984. What is that ministry doing? I mean, I'm just giving that as an example, as one that comes to mind. So perhaps there would also, in terms of how the positions are assigned and defined and the contents also, there would also be need to ensure that you have functional ministries that will impact almost immediately on citizens and be focused on service delivery. So those are I think that your Rosalie report, focusing on service delivery and also taking advantage of technology would be areas where the government could focus on to get things done.
Thank you very much. And then what will be your last word?
About what?
Generally on the cost of governance, the phantom ministerial is, and perhaps the authentic ministerial is.
My last word is that that's not going to be the last fake list that there will be in circulation. I hope, for the sake of this country and for the sake of the confidence that Nigerians still repose in the president, that he substantially makes the right choices, because we really can't wait to see some real results in the lives of citizens who are going through IDB at this time.
We can't wait. That is the right place to wrap it up. Conversations with Azu is about the most syndicated newspaper column of any Nigerian writer and commentator, primarily featured on Leadership and Vanguard newspapers every Friday. It can be accessed online on online media platforms, I'll take that again, including Premium Times, The Cable, The Interview Magazine, Neptune Prime, News Chronicles, and a couple of others. It is adapted and published by Clarín of Argentina, City Press, Daily Maverick, Mail and Guardian of South Africa, and Daily Graphic of Ghana. If you really want to get the gist of social, political, economic, and other human interest topics, take some time and read or listen to the audio file of the column at azuishiekwene.com. You won't be disappointed. Visit our social media interfaces on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and leave your likes and comments. Above all, don't forget to share. Thanks for deepening the conversation, Mr. Atu.
Thanks for having me once again. It's been a pleasure.
Bye for now.